Okay guys, we're going to go ahead and get started this morning with something a little bit different. So if you want to go ahead and hop into the screen share. Which is going to be a little bit of a continuation on yesterday. I did an alumni interview, and that alumni was Dalton Nichols, and Dalton talked a little bit about freelancing. And he mentioned a couple of tools that are part of his toolkit that he uses on all of his websites. And one thing he said yesterday was, I didn't start using WordPress immediately, but if I could go back and do it over, I would. So Dalton gave a big plug for WordPress and WordPress.org specifically. Now there's WordPress.com, which is like you make an account and you get a free blog, and your blog would be, the URL would be, for example, it would be evangudmested.wordpress.com. And that's not what web developers typically use. This is what bloggers use to fire up a blog really quick, is WordPress.com. Instead, WordPress.org is where you can develop entire websites using the tool WordPress. And your URL could be anything.com or anything.org or whatever, .it, whatever what that's called, the top level domain, the letters at the end here. So with WordPress.org, you can download WordPress and get it running on your local machine, very much like we run websites out of Visual Studio Code. And with Visual Studio Code, we have a built-in web server called Live Server. And kind of keeping in mind some of these fundamentals of websites and website hosting, is that there's a client and a server. And I've briefly touched on this in the past, but just the job of the client is basically to request a web page, and the job of the server is to host all the files. And when a request comes into the server, says I want to view your website, then the server sends the HTML files and sends the images and sends the CSS over to the client, and the client essentially downloads those files, and then the browser uses its rendering engine to draw the web page. All that to say that there is a different web server software when you download WordPress. And so that he mentioned this software yesterday, which is XAMPP, which is basically some software that you would use in conjunction with WordPress to have that web server hosting a WordPress site. Now, that's if you want to, develop a WordPress site locally, right? So if you want to develop the site on your local machine, which is a normal development process, right? A typical development process is you get the site developed on your machine how you want it, and then you deploy it to the web server, and that web server is typically something that you have to buy, like you buy hosting on a website like GoDaddy, for example. And so you can go to GoDaddy, and you can make an account and sign in. Now, I've got several GoDaddy accounts for some different sites that I work with. One site that I was going to just kind of do this little tutorial with on WordPress, a little bit about WordPress today, was with this, I'm a member of the Belleville, Illinois Running Club. And so one of the websites that I kind of help out with is this BellevilleMarathon.com. And so this is a marathon in Belleville, Illinois that's been going on for 5 or 6 or 7 years. and you know, I'm heavily involved with this, and like this is something that I volunteer with and put a lot of effort into, as far as being on the committee for this Belleville Marathon, and my wife as well. And so this site is actually built on WordPress. And so what's the advantage of that? Well, the advantage of a site being on WordPress, like, and this is the big advantage, is that, you know, right now, the way we're building websites, if you're going to update the website, you got to know a little HTML. You got to know a little CSS. You know, you have to either be self-taught or take a class on these technologies. Well, WordPress changes that. WordPress makes it so that if you can use a tool kind of like Microsoft Word, and if you're familiar with all the toolbars on Word and how to format fonts on Word and line spacing, and if you can use Microsoft Word, which most people are at least savvy enough to use Word, well, then you're smart enough to use WordPress. And so what that does is it goes from, okay, I need to update someone's website, and historically this is how it would go, just as an example, right? So you'd build a website for someone. Let's just say you charge them $500, and then every time they want an update to that website, you know, you might charge them an hourly rate. And so if they want to change a page or change content, they might pay you an hourly rate, for example, or, you know, as an example, they might pay you a monthly, you know, I know it's always done differently, but there might be a monthly rate which you could charge. Well, then what you end up doing as a web developer, you end up not only developing new sites, but you end up a lot of your time maintaining sites as well. What WordPress does, instead of developing new sites and then maintaining those sites, you let the end users maintain their own sites. What that allows you to do is charge more money up front for the website development. So instead of charging, just as an example, instead of just charging $500 up front and then a maintenance fee over the lifetime of the website, you just charge, for example, you might charge $1,500 or $3,000 or $5,000. I mean, WordPress sites, again, the prices can really vary. A high-end WordPress sites can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. But as beginner web developers, I'm just using those entry-level price points. So again, as an example, you know, for a more of a static HTML, CSS, JavaScript site, as an entry-level web developer, you might charge $500. But if it's built with WordPress, you might be able to charge more up front and then let them maintain it. And anyone who's worked with the general public at, for example, a retail job, you know, you understand the challenges around working with the general public. Generally speaking, you know, working with the general public sucks, you know. People don't like working with other people because people can be pretty nasty. You know, if you've ever worked a retail job, you know what I'm talking about. People are short-tempered and short-fused. And that's what you experience a lot in that world. If you end up maintaining 10, 15, 20 sites, you end up with a lot of short-tempered, nasty clients potentially. And so you kind of avoid that in this scenario. What you do is you do a good job developing a good site for them, and then you show them some basics on how they can maintain their own site, and then it's on them. And you don't have to, you know, potentially deal with some nasty clients. Anyways, maybe that's not the case. Maybe I'm being overly critical, saying the general public sucks. But if you've ever worked a retail job, fast food job, you know what I'm talking about. You know, people can be, you know, they leave behind messes and really nasty at times. So anyways, when you have a GoDaddy account, and this is my buddy I was running with this morning. So I'm logged in here as the user Belleville Running Club. Well, the account owner is my buddy Dan, and this is hosted on GoDaddy. So this URL, you have to buy two things, and we are going to talk about how to deploy websites and all this kind of stuff. You have to buy hosting, which is the web server. You have to rent a web server essentially, and you have to buy the name. So there's a couple of costs that go into this. WordPress, when you buy GoDaddy hosting, it's even easier to get up and running. Okay, so they literally call it a one-click install. And so when you log in, there's domain settings, and that's your domain name, your URL in other words. But then there's also hosting settings. So you have to get to, what I want to get to is the hosting settings. And imagine it's under website. Let's see, they change this so often, so let me click around. Let me go to manage my products. And again, I have the domain, BellevilleMarathon.com. Here's the hosting. Again, this is renting the web server. And this is hosted on Linux, and that's very common for WordPress to be hosted on Linux. And so what you would do to get started with WordPress, and all of you could do this today, it is super, super simple. Just cost a little bit of money, so obviously it's not like required as part of the class. But you could go out and buy yourdomainname.com. It would cost like $10 for the name, and it would cost $30 for the hosting. You find a good coupon or whatever. GoDaddy is a little bit more pricey. You can find cheaper solutions than GoDaddy, but the benefit of GoDaddy is they have amazing customer support. So for beginners, I really recommend GoDaddy because of that customer support, because you will find challenges, you will experience weird things, and their customer support, their little contact us, I've used them numerous times, and I can't think of a time I've ever not been able to solve the problem, and they always are able to help. So web hosting, and then you go to manage. So you're going to purchase a domain name, and you're going to purchase hosting, and then you're going to manage your hosting, and this is where you install WordPress. I was thinking about this morning, and my personal journey with WordPress has been, and I can't think of probably the proper expression, but it's been hack and slash. Like, I've never studied WordPress out of a book. I've never taken a class on WordPress. I've literally just hacked and slashed my way through WordPress. And now, I'm a novice level WordPress admin. I can get by, I can host a site, I can do most of the features that I need to do. And so, again, this is the URL that's tied to this hosting. And what you would do is you'd go to your cPanel. And this is kind of like your dashboard for your hosting. And so you go to your hosting package, and you go to cPanel. This is just the name for your dashboard. And you would go down into applications and install WordPress. So you'd click on WordPress, and I've already done this. And from this point, you just click on the install button, and this is going to help you get started installing WordPress on your hosting, on the site that you purchased, right? So if you want to do it for free, if you want to go the WordPress route for free, you're going to go to wordpress.org, you're going to download XAMPP, okay? This is going to be your web server. You're going to install it on your laptop, and you can tinker with it that way, okay? But if you ever want to get someone set up real easy with a website on WordPress, I'm telling you, go to GoDaddy, buy a domain name, link up the hosting to that domain name, go to cPanel, click on the install button. You're going to have to fill out some settings. It is a pretty complex tool, but they make it pretty easy to get up and running. So with that being said, that's how you get started using WordPress. And I'm not done with this example. I want to show a few more things. But like Dalton said yesterday, there's a lot of advantages to using WordPress. So I will say this, in this class, I don't have any formal lessons on WordPress. This is about as formal as it gets. I don't have any hands-on tests on WordPress. I don't have any labs on WordPress. But this is definitely something that many of my students who want to go a little bit above and beyond in this class, this is a perfect opportunity for you to do that. And it will allow you to take what we're learning with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript and apply it in a way using this tool that, again, the main benefit allows end users to update their own content. They don't have to know any HTML and CSS. So what does that look like? Well, I want to go ahead and show what that looks like. So, this is the URL that all users of this site know. What I know is that there's a URL here called WP admin. So a clear giveaway, if a site was built with WordPress, is if you could do a /WP-login, and that's going to bring you to this WordPress login. Now you have to have an account. As you can see here, I've got basically an admin account that I have cached in my password manager. Okay, so I'm logging in now. Not the best practice. You should have your own accounts. I don't. I'm logged in. So over here, I'm logged in as one person. Over here, I'm logged in as someone else. Not the cleanest experience. So now I'm logged into the Belleville Marathon dashboard. And so this is a WordPress dashboard. And you can have static pages. And so here's all the pages on our site. And if I just go to the home page, which is marked as the front page, you can see there's an edit tool. Now, WordPress has a built-in edit feature, and remember I said it kind of, it's like a Microsoft Word experience. Now, I've installed a somewhat more sophisticated tool besides the built-in edit tool. This is called Beaver Builder, whatever. This is just a piece of software that's a slightly more sophisticated editing tool. So if I click on edit, again, I'll go back to pages, and right off of home, I click edit, but you can also click on Beaver Builder. These are both your edit buttons. And so all of my tools, I think Beaver Builder is a little bit more end user friendly than the built-in edit button. This is a premium software you have to buy, but it's not necessary, but it's just something I have on this site. And that's a plugin that you can install on WordPress. And so this is an edit mode for an end user, and you can see, like I said here, if you can use Microsoft Word, you can update a website using WordPress. And so here's the website, and to update the text, I can click right in here, and here's my text editor on the right. If I wanted to, center text, right align, whatever I just did, right? You can click around, make changes here. You have access to a little bit of style. So if I wanted to maybe apply a different font family, right? And this is just like Microsoft Word. It takes a little getting used to. Again, I've learned this in a very hack and slash kind of way, just kind of plugging my way through it. I'm not a master by any means, but I can get by, and I can get by enough to show someone else how to make changes to a website. Once you're done making changes, you would click on done, and then you'd click on publish, and the website would be updated. So that's the quick example on how an end user who doesn't know any HTML, doesn't know any CSS, can update a website with WordPress. Now, let me go ahead and cancel this, and I'm going to get out of this Beaver Builder. Click done and discard. Okay, so I'm back kind of to the dashboard of WordPress, and here's my dashboard. And I just thought that I could show a real-world example of some information that's going to be added to this site. So under the volunteer drop-down, so if I kind of like click on visit site, right now there's these drop-down menus on some of our nav bars, right? And right now there's not a drop-down menu on volunteer. So what I've been asked to do is to create a drop-down under volunteer titled Course Volunteer FAQs. So I have to make a new page called Course Volunteer FAQs. And then I thought, since this last week we've been battling with accordions, this is a perfect use case for an accordion. Frequently asked questions is a perfect use case for an accordion. So I thought, let's go ahead and make a web page with an accordion on it. And hopefully this site was built with Bootstrap, so I can tie in a Bootstrap accordion, which I do believe it is. Let's check that. How can I tell if this site was built with Bootstrap? And I do believe it was. But the way that I'm going to look is I'm going to kind of come up here into the head, and I'm going to look at the different scripts. I'm pretty sure it was built with Bootstrap. But I'm going to look for like bootstrap.css, or I'm going to look for I hope it was built with Bootstrap. In the past, on this Chrome tool, yeah, it gives me, if I hit Control F, you notice I have a find by string. Aha, there's my bootstrap.min.css. Notice the version, that's pretty up to date. It says version 5.1.13. Again, I kind of always recommend just copying the Bootstrap CSS URL and pasting it. It's not a current Bootstrap. There it is, Bootstrap version 3. Okay, so this is great because not only do we get to, implement some Bootstrap, which we've been learning all week, we're going to implement it in WordPress, and we're going to see how we can do that. And we get to support an old Bootstrap version 3. So we're going to see how that can be done. So that's great. So here's how we get started. And as you might guess, we're going to go to the dashboard. We're going to click on Pages. We're going to click on Add New. And the page title as given here. Now let's talk about what this is a little bit more. All of you are going to be asked to build a website for somebody in this class. Build a website for somebody else. Preferably, you're not building a website for a family member, or like your best friend. Preferably, you're building a website for a business owner, someone who you can find that owns a small business and isn't super closely related to you or a super close friend. There's a couple of things in there. Number one, your mom, for example, or your best friend is not likely to be critical of your work. Okay? You want someone who's going to be honest with you and say, no, this sucks. I think, I'd like to change this. I'd like to improve that. Oh, you didn't learn that in school? Well, I'm sorry. I still want it done on my site. Can you help me? Kind of thing. So you want someone to... Now, that business owner probably doesn't have a bunch of content that they're just willing to or they have ready to go onto a website, right? So a common conversation is like, hey, I need content. Who's going to develop the content? And it's important, I think, up front to say, well, I'm the web developer. I can take the content and get it onto the website, but you're the business owner, you're the industry expert. You have to know what photos are the best photos for your website. I don't know the best real estate photos of the houses that you're trying to sell. You have to generate the content. So big takeaway that I've learned in this industry is one of the biggest delays in website development, especially once you become a proficient web developer, one of the biggest delays is waiting on the end users to give you content. Okay, because a lot of times they don't have it written, they don't have this, they don't have the Word document full of information and images for you to put onto a website. Okay, so just a little bit of a warning here. The person that you're going to build a website for, it's going to be important for them to understand that you need the content, so they need to put in the work, the effort to give that to you in a timely manner, because they typically don't. And by they, I mean these clients that you're building websites for. Okay. A lot of jibber jabber. Course volunteer facts is the page title. Let's go to Beaver Builder. And you're going to see that WordPress kind of has what's called a theme or a template around it. And so what you have access to editing on a page is kind of like this middle section here. And we can change like this background image, and we can change these outer portions. But on this page, you kind of are limited to what you can update. You can't change the footer, and you can't really change the header in this little section. It needs to basically look like the rest of the site. So that's part of your theme. So we're not really touching the theme right here. Now, built into Beaver Builder, they've got rows and columns. So for right now, I'm imagining a single column. And let's go back to, now that we have a column, I don't know but much about this accordion tool. So we have items, add items, and we might not even have to use a Bootstrap Accordion. It looks like there might be an accordion built into this Beaver Builder. So let's click on edit item and then content. So label and content. So let's just add 2 items. The first one is when is the race? Copy, paste. Copy, paste. add item. And again, this is kind of, we've learned Bootstrap, and I certainly could write some custom HTML, and I think it might be worth showing how I might do that if you want to write some custom HTML. But also, you know, I got this tool that has an accordion built in, and it seems pretty easy to use. So I'm just kind of dabbling here, again doing my hack and slash. And if I just click save, done, just gonna click on publish, and now the page is, well, there you go, right? So let me fill this out because there's more to do here, and again, I kind of want to show you how to get Bootstrap in here. So let me go back to Beaver Builder mode, and let me click on my accordion, and let me finish copying and pasting. I'm just gonna drag it to my other screen. Go a little bit faster that way. Edit item. You guys have any questions out there on Discord land right now, or is this interesting, or just kind of like, okay, whatever?
With regards to this, is there a way you can add custom code, or is it just
the
tools that?
Yeah, no, we can add custom code, and I will show that.
Yeah, this is like website cheat codes, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think this Beaver Builder is a premium tool. So like, if you look it up, I think it's got a cost. I don't know what that cost is, but
this is like balsamic wireframes is what it reminds me of.
yeah, just a drag and drop kind of tool. Is that what you mean by that?
Yeah, the simplicity. Do you know if like Squarespace and stuff like that is basically kind of the same deal?
If what?
Like, I don't know if you've ever heard of Squarespace, but I know like a lot of podcasters promote.
Yeah, Squarespace. I think Squarespace is far more restrictive in what you can do. I think. I'm not sure how much access to the HTML, CSS. In other words, I think I believe, at least historically this was the case. I don't know if it's the case in 2022. Historically, it was the case that you're far more limited in the customization that you can do on Squarespace.
Yeah, Gamers Nexus, I know that they promote it quite a bit, but one of the main things he kind of points out when he does the ad is that it allows you to build a website quickly. So I think that might be why it's so restrictive. It's more about speed than anything.
And you know, Dalton did mention yesterday, and I tend to agree with it. The more you develop websites, the more you'll get an eye for well done, professional, custom work versus templated, thrown together, quickly Squarespace type stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I could see that.
I think even still, like, if you do something with Squarespace, you probably still want to have someone who knows what they're doing, so then it doesn't necessarily look like a template.
Yeah.
It's like the difference between like, you know, a house you build yourself compared to like driving into a subdivision where everything looks exactly the same.
Yeah, St. Louis has some good neighborhoods like that, right? That every house it's not cut the same way. Okay, so there's my 9 items. If I click on Save, Done, Publish, let me double check my work. When is the race? Where do I go on race morning? I have volunteered in the past. I'm part of a larger group. What will I be doing as a volunteer? Why are some locations grouped and some individual? I just want to help. What should I bring with me? And what information? Okay, so now I've got this page, but it's not, it's still not in our nav bar, right? So the next thing I need to do with my hack and slash is I need to go to my dashboard, and I'm going to need to kind of get into my template, and I call it my template, my themes. And this is my Belleville Marathon theme. So I'm going to click on Customize. And a lot of site settings are here. But if I look under Menus, Primary Menu, you can kind of see the nav bar menu. And now I want to add something underneath volunteer, so maybe add items. And here are my pages. There's my page, Course Volunteer FAQs. So I'm going to click. Can I just drag and drop? That didn't work. So I'm just going to click on maybe the plus symbol. Okay, and I'm going to drag this underneath volunteer, publish, and we have entered the cheat code. And let me click on back now. Click on back again, and let me click on close here. We're back to the dashboard, and now I can visit the site. Now there's one page which is volunteer, and then there's volunteer FAQs. And notice the URL is pretty smart, Course Volunteer FAQs. And voila. See, this is what you call multitasking. Not only am I giving a brief demonstration to my web development class, I'm also making my wife happy by doing what she's asking of me. This is 2 birds, 1 stone. Next up, we could probably do this one more time. Create a separate drop-down from the volunteer tab, course volunteer information. So one more page with a little bit more information on it. You know, I don't know that this is necessarily the best background image for a volunteer. Like, that's not a guy volunteering, that's a guy tying his shoe.
He kind of looks like he's tired of volunteering.
Yeah, he doesn't look like he's volunteering. So, you know, probably one thing that I would consider, look at that, ranking as a gold sponsor. One thing that I would consider would be getting that updated. And again, I think I can hack and slash my way through that, but otherwise, you know, easy enough. Let's create another page. I'll just do this one more time, and then that will kind of be the end of this demonstration. I'll go to the dashboard. I'll go to the pages. Now, this also supports blogging. So you can make an individual page kind of like your blogging page. So I could have bellevillemarathon.com/blog, and that would allow users to log in and make blog posts. And there's a bunch of advantages to blogging on your site, specifically the more content you have on your site, ideally the more traffic it brings in. So if you blog on your site, probably that's going to bring you more traffic. That's kind of the objective, is you want to blog about, what are people searching for? So you might write a blog post why the Belleville Marathon is the best marathon in the Midwest. That way, when someone does a search for best marathon Midwest, that this blog post could show up, right? So that's kind of why you would blog, but it's just worth noting that you can have static pages and pages that are blogs, kind of built into the same tool. So that's another advantage of using WordPress, is it's a built-in blogging platform that you don't really get with static HTML and static CSS. I'm going to just try Beaver Builder, and what the heck, we'll drag a row layout or module to get started. So here's my rows. I'm just going to do 2 columns. We'll do 1 column with a heading in it and 2 columns underneath it. So this will have modules, a heading, and we'll make it a H1 tag, and it will say course volunteer information. And we'll get it centered in the middle there. And all sorts of font options here. Font family, typography, font, style and spacing, text shadows. Here's my color.
So underneath all of this, like, what is actually generating all this code as you're dragging around?
Yeah, I can kind of show you what it's generating.
Like, is there some sort of like proprietary kit that they use?
No, it's generating HTML and CSS, and I guess that's what I forgot to demonstrate was how to actually can write some HTML and CSS. So under modules, there should be just like an HTML. Like, here we go. So if we just want to drag this in here, and if I want to do a, actually I'm going to drag this HTML underneath. There we go. And let's click on my HTML, and I just want to try, paragraph tag. Or modules, HTML.
Did you instinctually look for an image shortcut?
Yeah, I kind of did. That's the disadvantage of you don't get all the support in the Beaver Builder that you get in Visual Studio Code. And I don't know that an unordered list is actually appropriate for this, because This is just kind of the format that it looked like to me. She gave it to me in a bulleted list, so I just put it in a list. And, you know, whether that's the right module or markup for it, probably not, but I'm just kind of keeping it in the same format that it was given to me in. Yeah, you know, I guess, you know, one thing that I kind of did intentionally was I broke it up into columns. Generally speaking, columns are much more end user friendly than a single column. Like 3 columns, just much more readable. And so I would encourage avoiding single column layout. Unless it's like mobile format. That's a big design. I don't teach a lot of design concepts necessarily, but that's a big design concept that I believe in. Is you do want your content to be considered, you know, easy to read, and multiple columns is always the suggestion. Right? Again, I just referenced newspapers. So there you go. So there's our little page. Course volunteer information. Now, let's go back to Beaver Builder. I want to change. Why is this guy tying his shoe?
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna change the background.
Yeah, I do want to change the background. But I don't, it doesn't seem to have access to it in this Beaver Builder tool. So I'm gonna have to get out of this. I guess that would be the last thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and add this page underneath volunteer. So I'll start with that. But I did show you how to write some custom HTML and CSS. Safe enough to say that I could add a Bootstrap class. Let's just out of pure, we wrote a little HTML here. And let's do class of text primary. Notice we got our Bootstrap class blue, right? So it's as easy as writing Bootstrap classes in there, and we could have used our Bootstrap Accordion. And what I would have done is I would have gone to getbootstrap.com. I would have gone to version 3. And then I would have gone to, now it's interesting, they, you know, I don't know if this is exact same version. I'm pretty sure that the code in here would work. I need to go to the documentation, so I click on components. I'm going to click on getting started. And components. So the documentation looks a little bit different, but nonetheless, I should be able to find my accordion. Oh, there's my Jumbotron, back in the day when we had a Jumbotron.
Right, you went to 3 as opposed to 5.
Yeah, remember this site was built with Bootstrap 3.
Oh.
Yeah. And the way I found that, were you there when I showed that? Yeah. So you got to go to Bootstrap 3 docs unless you upgrade it. Well, accordion. There we go. So here's our accordion in Bootstrap 3. And here's the code that you could have started with. Click on copy. Paste that in, and boom, there's your accordion. Again, I got to go to my theme, customize my theme, click on menu, primary menu, and what did I say? Add item. course volunteer information as such. Publish, close, view site. Problem solved. Just don't want this guy tying a shoe. That might be under themes. And so there's back to Amel's question about like what is the code that it's generating. I mean, of course we could inspect these pages and see the actual HTML that it generates. Might be worth doing that quickly. So if you go to pages and we click on one of the ones we just created and inspect. You know, I don't know that this is necessarily answering your question, but you know.
No, I was just more so wondering, like in conjunction with HTML, like is it JavaScript that's like dynamically generated?
I mean, this drag and drop tool is generating. I mean, it generated a div with a bunch of classes on it, an H1 inside of that, a span inside of that. So then here's another div that it created. There's our H3.
You know those pseudo classes that was used too? That,
Yeah, the pseudo selectors before. Yeah. So yeah, it's just putting a bunch of divs around things. These divs have classes on it, padding, and all this kind of stuff. Themes. Customize. So the home page is a static page. It's the home page. There's no like blogging. The posts are like your blogs. This does not seem to be what I'm looking for. The widgets. Footer widget. Under appearance, I know that if you want direct access to the HTML, you can come in here and click on Customize. And
so do you need to select the page that you're trying to get to do that?
well, so here's some CSS. I do know that you can get access to source code. It's been a while. I'm not remembering exactly where that access is. Like the raw source code and make direct changes instead of using this drag and drop feature. So it might not be under theme, widgets, menus, theme editor. Oh. Heads up, you appear to be making direct edits to your theme. We recommend you don't do this. I understand. So here, it's PHP. Here's a bunch of the PHP but under assets, CSS, here's a lot of the CSS files. Here's our default CSS. Doesn't really seem to have anything in it. These are the different, believe it or not, these are all CSS files that are either available to use or whether it's using them all. I kind of doubt that it's using them all, but and again, you could come in here and directly edit the CSS. I'm not going to do that. Here, instead of logging in as Sarah West, I could create, oh, it looks like I do have my own user. Well, there you go. I just need to log in as me instead of logging in as Sarah West. That's I mean that's the main things I wanted to show you. The only one thing I haven't shown would be how to change that image. And I'm sure I could hack and slash my way through and figure it out, but it's not jumping out at me. If I go to pages, and let's just click on the page I just created, and let me go to here. And right away it says use Beaver Builder, page attributes, no parent, template, default template, order, hide banner, ooh, set featured image, okay. Okay, now we're talking. So this is volunteer information. So let's find a good volunteer photo. Who's volunteering?
It looked like there was a guy giving children some water or something. Oh no, he's just hanging out.
Okay, well these kids are volunteering. Yeah, you know, I'm gonna be sensitive with people's kids. I'm not gonna put. Oh, these guys look volunteering. There we go. Set featured image. Update. View page. Yay! And
I'm guessing those images are posted somewhere.
yeah, so the images, to get the images in there, you just go to Media Library and add images here.
Okay.
And we should have more images. I know we have more images. But this is what we have currently uploaded. So for now, the other one will be an untying issue, and I'll just deal with that. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording there.